Okay, it's my 15th take. I'm kind of out of breath, so hopefully y'all can like and subscribe, support this video as much as you can, because this is tiring. Making videos is tiring. But I'm talking about this phone right here, the HTC One M8, the phone that I love a lot. The phone that a lot of people around me laughed at me for liking so much, and and the phone that is the reason why I've been making tech videos for 4 or 3 years now. Yeah, the HTC One M8. Gorgeous little smartphone, and to me, the best design of all time. So let's talk about it. So why do I think it's the best design of all time? I'm not just talking about aesthetics, which is undoubtedly one of its strongest suits. It looks beautiful. It's symmetrical. It is gunmetal gray, beautiful brushed aluminum design. It is aesthetic, it's industrialist, it's minimalist. Everywhere around this phone, it's metal and glass, and it's mostly metal, so that is extra nice feeling in the hand. It is beautiful. It's curved slightly. Every angle of it, you look at it at every angle and it looks good. The front looks beautiful, the 2 boom sound speakers making the design of it truly unique and truly iconic. The back is equally gorgeous with the dual camera, which was revolutionary at the time. Look wonderful with a little HTC logo smack in the middle, making everything look symmetrical and just right. Nothing on this phone looks out of place. Apart from that, a lot of the design of this phone is just wonderful to look at. It's a beautiful piece of technology. It's a beautiful piece of material design and smartphone and consumer design. I don't think any smartphone will ever look as good as this, especially since metal smartphones will never be released again because of NFC and wireless charging being a thing. So yeah, it is a gorgeous design. But design isn't just aesthetics. Design is also feel and build quality, and obviously that is where it shines. Being the whole thing being metal, it feels wonderful in the hand. When you held it, when I picked it up for the first time, I was like, yo, this phone feels like a Rolex, it feels like an Omega, it feels like an AP, you know, it's solid. The whole thing is machined and it just feels premium. When you bought this phone 6-7 years ago, it felt like you were driving a Rolls Royce. That's how expensive and premium this phone felt. And some people might call it hipster for looking different, but it looked different in a good way. It didn't just look different to look different. It looked different because it wanted to look good. It felt different because it wanted to feel good. And that was what HTC was going with this phone. And that's why I love the design so much, because it doesn't just look good, it feels amazing. The metal and the build quality of this phone is better than anything I've ever felt. Like, the metal on this phone feels thick and solid, it feels like a tank. And to put it into comparison, having held the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 6 and the HTC One M7, in fact, none of those phones feels as well built as this HTC One M8. This phone is, I think, the best built phone of all time. And part of this reason is also because it is hefty. It's quite a heavy phone for its size. In fact, I think it's about the same weight as my S10 Plus, which sounds like a lot, but when the phone is so small, it doesn't really matter, and having a heavy phone feels good in the hand. And another part of the design is that it's not afraid to be slightly thicker. A lot of phones at the time were constantly trying to be as thin as possible, and the HTC One M8 just wasn't thin. Like, it is a thick and chunky phone, which is something that a lot of phone manufacturers are actually going back to, because they realize that nobody wants such a thin phone, and having a thick phone is so much more comfortable in the hand. And this phone was just that. It was not super thick, that it was heavy and clunky, but it was not super thin, that it was like a piece of fragile glass in your hand, ready to crack at all times. So that's another reason why I like the design so much. It's not just good looking, but it also feels premium in the hand. And also, it's super comfortable once it's there in your hands. That's another reason I like this design so much, why I think it's the best design of all time. it's comfort. Now you might be like, comfort on a smartphone? Yes, comfort on a smartphone. The curve of the back is perfect for your hand. It feels wonderful when once you held it. The curve is amazing. The small details here and there, like that curve, are the reasons why it's so comfortable. For example, the sides of the phone are angled slightly in towards the user, so that when you grip the phone, it is actually, guiding your fingers a certain way. So you get a better grip and a more comfortable grip on your phone as compared to something like the S10 Plus, which is just a glass slab. Sure, a glass slab is very good to look at sometimes, but with these small little details here and there, it feels wonderful and it feels comfortable to hold and touch and use in your hand. Another small piece of detail that you might not have noticed with this phone when they were trying to make it as ergonomic as possible was that they didn't really care about the top and bottom bezels, but they actually made the side bezels as narrow as possible. Back then, these side bezels were class leading at the time, and really no other phone had such thin side bezels. And this resulted in a very narrow and long phone, which basically gave it a very easy to use form factor. If you wanted to reach across the screen, it was super duper easy. You want to reach the top, it might have been a bit harder, but because it was so narrow, it was so easy to use it one-handed, which made it so good of a phone design. Another part of this phone design that made it so good to me, and in terms of comfort, was its weight balance. A lot of smartphones nowadays are weighted quite well. They're balanced about 50-50, That's good, but a true ergonomic design to me will have a weight, will have its CG slightly lower, slightly off-center towards the bottom. And this has just that. It's slightly heavier towards the bottom, so I can't really balance it in the middle. In fact, it's heavier down here, you see? If I put my finger in the middle, it will actually drop down low. Because it's heavier at the bottom, when you hold it, it's less likely, it doesn't feel like it's gonna fall out at any time because it's too top heavy. And it felt very secure when you're using it one-handed. It felt very comfortable when you were just using your phone like that. And because of small details like this is why I loved using this phone so much when it came to the design. And honestly, I say it's my favorite design because it's not fair to say that it was my favorite smartphone performance-wise, camera-wise and all that. It had a lot of flaws, I admit, but when it came down to straight physical material design, to this day, the HTC One M8 remains unbeaten because it's the best looking, it's the best feeling with the best materials, and it was the most comfortable smartphone I've ever used. Sure, it lacks features like fingerprint sensors, a proper camera, and a slow phone by today's standards, of course, but back then, to me, it was really all that I wanted. I didn't take that many photos back then, and every other part of this phone, apart from the camera, was phenomenal. For example, the boom sound speakers was like, whoa! That was out of this world. It was loud, it was crisp, it was clear, and it just gave a wonderful experience. So that is why, to me, the HTC One M8 is the best design in the world. Now, why does it have such a place in my heart? Why am I talking so passionately about it? Why did I take 15 takes for this video before I can finally settle on one? Well, the reason for that is because this was my first brand new smartphone, and it was a very defining smartphone experience for me. After using this phone, I think I've pretty much compared every single smartphone I've used since then to this phone, somewhere in my head, in my subconscious, because A, it was my first phone, and B, it was such a revolutionary phone that I don't think enough people give it credit. So one of the reasons I liked it so much was because I bought it on release day, and it didn't fail me for 2+ years until I switched to my next phone. It was a tank, I could throw it around, and it never stuttered. The phone after that was a bad experience, so maybe it made this phone feel even better. But yeah, that's why it's so nostalgic for me. It's my first phone and stuff like that. But apart from that, why would I say that this phone is a sad reminder of what HTC could have been? Well, to understand why I said that at the start of the video, you have to understand HTC's history. They started off as the first smartphone manufacturer that uses Android on their smartphones, which was revolutionary at the time. And well, no one knew it yet, but it was going to become the next big thing when it came to smartphones. And HTC were ahead of the curve, and they released a lot of Android smartphones, and they were one of the main reasons Android even became so popular and so successful today. So without them, Android would have been nothing, and now because of them, Android became something. Well, not completely because of them, but partly because Android was adopted by HTC and put into these good quality phones that Android became something. After the Androids, as they released more phones, Android started to pick up, and HTC started to gain traction. They gained more market share, and they were pretty good in the early years of the smartphone world. However, Samsung came along, and there was a lot of competition. And as competition picked up, HTC started to falter and struggle in the smartphone world. They were great, by the way, up to maybe about the S3 and S4. But once the S4 came out, a lot of the HTC phones struggled to compete and keep up with what Samsung was offering. Then the HTC One M7 came out, and everyone was like, whoa, this phone is so cool, it's so good. Build quality wise, it's like nothing else in the market, but it was lacking in so many areas. Then the HTC One M8 came out, and everyone was like, okay, HTC is back, it's a return to form, we're gonna come, we're gonna win. But that never happened. The HTC One M8 was honestly the peak of HTC smartphones. There was a slight resurgence when they released the HTC 10, but even that was still lacking in too many areas to be competitive in the smartphone world, which was unfortunate because HTC to me has always been a brand that was innovative and unique and wonderful. And having them not make any smartphones anymore is kind of sad, because some of the best smartphones ever made were from HTC. The One M8, the One 10, the earlier iterations of HTC phones before everything became glass backed. All that used to be amazing, and the One M8 is just a sad reminder that HTC could have been still here if they had better leadership and better decision making, but now they're gone. This awesome phone company that made awesome stuff is gone. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, this is economics, this is competition, and this is what happens if you stay stagnant and don't improve yourself, like Intel. But anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit of a rant. I got to a bit of a rant, but I hope you understand why I like this phone so much now, why I think it's the best design ever, why it's so nostalgic for me, why am I so passionate about it, and why it's such a sad reminder of when HTC used to be good. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe, comment, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, blah 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 blah. Just do one of the stuff. You don't need to do all of it. Just do one of it, please. Thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.